So I pre-drew the triangle for this to save us some time. So again, this is a side angle problem, which tells me I need to be careful that there could be no triangle, one triangle, or two triangles. So let's see what happens in this one. So again, the first step is to find the missing angle. We're going to be able to find angle B this time because it's across from the 20. So we're going to find angle B. So it's going to be the sine of B over 20 equals the sine of 50 over 10. Cross multiply, we get 10 times the sine of B equals 20 times the sine of 50. Divide by 10. That's the first thing we're going to unwrap. We get sine of B is equal to, again, this decimal give me 4 decimal places when you're in the middle of the problem. And that is 1.5321. And then the next step to solve for B is to get rid of the sign, take the sign inverse on each side. And then something really weird happens here. If you type this in your calculator, you're going to get an error, because remember we talked about with sine, the highest point it can hit is positive 1 and the lowest point it can hit is negative 1, so there's not going to be any value here. So since this doesn't work, you have no triangle. So these are going to be the easy ones on the homework tonight, because right away that first problem you set up isn't going to work, which tells you you have no triangle. Alright, I've got one more scenario to look at, which is the most complicated. So again, the first step is the same for all these problems. The first thing you're going to find is an angle. So the first angle I'm going to find here is B, because it's across from that given side. So it's going to be sine B over 16 equals sine 35 over 12. Cross multiply and solve. I'm going to do that and then come back. So I just cross multiplied and got my 4 decimal places. When I typed in 16 times sine 35 over 12 in my calculator, I get 0.7648. So now our next step is to take the inverse, and you're going to end up with B is equal to 50 degrees. So where do we go from here? This is where the problem has to split. The quadrant 1 answer is going to be B equals 50 degrees. But then you have to also think of what the quadrant 2 answer would be and set up a second problem there. The quadrant 2 answer, we would take the 50 degrees and subtract from 180. We're going to get 130 degrees. So B could also be 130 degrees. That's the second scenario. And then we're going to solve each of these individually. So I'm going to work on the one on the left first. So I now know B is 50, and I can find C right away. C I can find by adding 35 plus 50, which is 85, and then subtracting from 180. You get that C is 95. And the last thing I need to find on the left side is what little c is now. So now I know that big C is 95. So I can do the sine of 95 over little c is equal to the sine of 35 over 12, using that trusty pair that they gave me at the beginning of the problem. And now I'm just going to go ahead and pause it and work through that. So I just cross-multiplied and then typed it in my calculator, and I got C is 20.8. So that's your little c. Actually, I should have done a better job there of writing it as a little c. It's not going to let me erase it. But try and do a better job at making it a little c. And then big C, the nice thing is when you see the degrees, you know it's big C. Big C and big B, that's my answer on that side. Let's see what happens on the other side now. So again, the first step after you find the second angle is to find the third angle. That's the easiest thing to find next. So I'm using the 130, and then if you look at in the problem, the black part, the 35 they gave me originally. And I am going to get 165, which is not too big this time, so I can go ahead and find my second value for angle C. Angle C could also be 15 degrees when B is 130. So I do that, and then we have to find little c for this problem. They turn into two separate problems here. So it would be the sine of 15 over little c is equal to the sine of same trusty pair, 35 over 12. Then I'm going to cross multiply and solve this. So I cross multiplied, typed it in my calculator, and I got C is 5.4. So those 3 answers on the one side go together and the 3 answers on the other side go together. So if I just color code it a little bit here, these 3 go together, and then these 3 go together. And hopefully you can read over the highlights. But those are 2 sets of answers now. That's what you'll see when you look in the back of the book. So try this. We'll talk tomorrow. I think I have one more quick thing to do on the last page. On the last thing on this, what you're going to see when you look in the back of the book is this is a 2 triangle problem. It will ask you that in the directions. Is it 1 triangle, 2 triangles, or no triangles? And this is 2 triangles. Alright, so this last problem is to find the area of any oblique triangle. So anything that's not a right triangle, how to find the area. Usually the area is 1/2 base times height. But when it's an oblique triangle, we have to get sine involved here. So your formulas are right up there at the top. That's the formula we're going to use. It pretty much just uses different letters there, but as long as you're using the angle that's between the 2 sides, that's what they want you to do here. So the first thing you have to do is draw out the picture. We have 2 sides that are 8 meters and 12 meters, and the angle between them is 135 degrees. So as long as that's how the picture looks, as long as this is side angle side, that's what this works for. A side angle side problem. You can just plug into the formula. So it's going to be 1/2 of 8 times 12, and then it's going to be the sine of the angle, 135. And you type that in your calculator, and it will give you the area. When you type that in your calculator, you get an area of 33.9 meters squared. Alright, do your homework. Good luck. We'll talk on Wednesday.